Keli, welcome to Riveter's Time Well Spent.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hello. I want to start our conversation today with a quote. This is a quote that you posted. You're very active on LinkedIn. You post a lot of things that are really seem like from the bottom of your heart, very much personality driven. And this quote I loved. You said, "The same boiling water that softens the potato hardens the egg. It's about what you're made of, not the circumstances."
Yeah.
Tell me what that means to you.
I think it's just a really, really good kind of explanation of the year, right? There are so many things that people have gone through this year that have been so immensely difficult, and you could sit back and let them break you, or you could also sit back and let them make you stronger and kind of mold who you want to be and where you want to go moving forward.
How do you, somebody earlier quoted Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and author of Man's Search for Meaning, and said, between stimulus and response, there's a gap, there's a space, and
Yeah.
that space is where you decide how you will act. Keli, when you're going through a tough situation, maybe let's talk about when you first lost your job, how did you approach that? How did you decide what is it you're made of and how the boiling water is going to affect you?
You know what's really funny about, and I haven't mentioned this a lot, but one of the craziest things when I first lost my job, it was kind of like I had been working so freaking much, and I'd kind of been killing myself for a company almost to the point where I had like forgotten myself, right? And so it's just, I kind of say this because it's interesting the way our responses change the more that we're affected by something. At first, it was kind of a welcome break, and I was like, I'm going to bounce back from this. This is going to be great. We're going to get something even better in our life, and like try to look at it as positively as I possibly could. And then as time goes on and like different things happen throughout the process, like looking for a job is a job. It's the most stressful thing you'll ever do. And I think given the climate of this year and just the landscape of things being so uncertain, it's been even more difficult. But I think, yeah, I mean, as time goes on, I think the process has been a little bit more interesting where I'm kind of trying to give myself a little bit more grace now. I think, like I said, then it was a little bit more of a deep breath, and now it's a little bit more of a stress. But I think, when you can approach things and say, this is going to be hard, it's going to be hard, but take a step back from it when you need to take a step back from it, not focus all of your energy on things. Kind of we just discussed a little bit earlier is making time for things that make you feel good, and kind of complementing the work that you have to do to get where you want to be is not constant work. It has to be a break in, conversations with friends and creative endeavors and like nature and just things that make you feel good as a person.
Yeah, you wrote about that recently too. You wrote, you asked people what positive changes have you been able to make to either your personal or professional life. For you, it's doing things that make me feel good. Sometimes it's yoga, sometimes just being quiet, practicing gratitude, saying yes to myself, random acts of kindness. Tell me more about how you structure these non-job search activities into your day, into your week.
So I think the thing that has been very apparent to me, like I said, it's been a hard year for me for a number of reasons. And I've been taken aback by the people who have been the most supportive to me because they haven't been the people that I've expected at all. And I think that as we go through this life and kind of as we go through difficult times, first and foremost, everything is difficult this year. Like me having a hard time is not me alone. And I think thinking about that, it takes nothing to have empathy for another human being and nothing to be kind. But if you walked into every day and you said, you know what, like I'm going to encounter a person today that is living the worst day of their life, how would you treat them? And like setting time for those things. Like there have been days where I've sat down and I've gone on LinkedIn just to tell somebody how great they were to work with through like a recommendation and saying like, you know what, you were awesome because I don't know what their day is like. I don't know what their struggle has been like. I don't know what their financial situation has been like from this. And I think when you set time forward to realize that it's not all about you, it's fulfilling for yourself. But in my experience, when people have done that for me, it's literally made me cry. It's made me so happy to read the words that somebody else have felt about me. It's great.
Yeah. One of the things that people do a lot of during this time is network. Sometimes network is even too formal a word. Sometimes just calling up all friends and catching up because you got all this time. Sometimes it is in the structured environment, like a networking group. Sometimes it's just you reaching out to random people and asking to get a coffee. What has been your approach to networking these last few months?
So it's crazy kind of, because there've been so many things that have been offered during this time where I mean, essentially it's a money grab, right? People are like, oh, I have this program, I can teach you. But in order for them to get you to that point, they're setting up like webinars and different things. And every single time I've seen something like this, I'm like, I don't know everything, I'm going to go on and do it. And so it's like I've gotten little snippets of information from different places, and to your point, different friends and people that are kind of also in the same situation this year. And I've reached out to people like I've identified companies that I'm like, I have to work here because I like their mission. I like what they're doing. I like their purpose larger than just like we're paying our employees. They care about people in the world. And I've reached out to their CMOs because ultimately that's going to be like who I would work for, and just said like, hey, I'm obsessed. You don't have a job for me right now, but like, I want to be a part of this. And it hasn't paid off on a job yet, but you know what? The more, like we were just saying, being kind to other people and acknowledging the other good things that people are doing, I think that's a great way to kind of take a step into things. And just to your point, growing a network and saying like, hi, I'm Keli. You look for jobs in this industry or whatever. It's I'd like to connect with you, and then you're in their network to be seen moving forward.
So this is either a stereotype about marketers or an assumption about you, but you seem like a very extroverted person, somebody who's
Oh God.
who seems very confident in your ability to at least reach out and say something. And I say that because you're reaching out to CMOs at companies where you admire, where I can guarantee 9 people out of 10 would be too afraid to say something. Oh, they might not want to talk to me, or oh, like I'm not going to reach out to them. I don't necessarily have something to say. What would be your advice to somebody, Keli, doing what you are doing, to who's like, I kind of want to be reaching out to more people, but they're punching above my weight class? How do they start making those connections?
The answer is always, always no if you don't try. The worst that's going to happen to you, particularly on the internet, right, is that someone's just not going to respond. And I promise you, it's like for the next maybe, and that's happened to me. And in the next like 24 hours, I'm like, oh, that's annoying. That person like wouldn't connect with me. It didn't work. But that sting is so small and ends so quickly. And think about what could happen if you did try. Because it hasn't worked out to where like what I have attempted to, succeed in doing hasn't gone there yet. But you have to have faith in yourself, and you have to have faith in what you have to offer. And a lot of times, in general, like everybody has the same skill sets. A marketer is a marketer in so many ways, and there are people that are way more talented than I am. There are people that I'm way more talented than, but at the same time, it's how do you present yourself? Like, do you lead with kindness? Do you lead with a hello? Like, are you nervous to walk through the door? It's funny you say I'm an extrovert, because I feel like I'm the biggest introvert in the world. Maybe I'm a good actress.
You're doing a good job tricking me.
Thank you. But yeah, I think you just have to, kind of coach yourself and say like, I've got this. And like I said, the worst thing that somebody's going to say to you is no, which isn't that bad.
It never ends up as bad as it sounds.
No, it's overwhelming, I guess, when you're thinking about all of the no's that you get over a period of unemployment. But
Yeah.
in the big scheme of things, it will eventually lead you to somewhere much greater, I believe.
I want to ask about like personal and professional development, or just ways in which you've worked on bettering yourself these last few months. I know one thing, I'll lead you a little bit, but I know one thing you've been doing is you told me you're spending a lot more time on movement, that every day you're making sure you get up, you get things going, and physical activity has become really important to you. Tell me about that, certainly. And I'm also curious, have you taken classes? Have you volunteered? Have you done projects? Have you done anything around like improving your own skill set or your approach or your brand or anything like that?
So yes, I have definitely been focused a lot more on movement. Kind of mentioned this earlier, but the position that I was in prior to this had been very, very hectic, and I'd kind of, let myself slip in general, and just had quit paying as much attention to like what Keli needed, and more attention to like what my job needed of me. And obviously it's important to do a great job at work, but it's also important to me maintain your own sanity. So that's one thing that I've been focused on in the biggest way, is just how do I need to take care of myself? And movement's definitely one of them. You know, communicating with people and actually making phone calls. It's funny. I've thought a lot about this, but just text messaging and you're in a hurry and you're like going back and forth and emails, it's like pick up the phone and talk to people sometimes, because the connections that you'll make through conversation and things where you're like, I didn't remember that happening, but it's so great. I've, you know, relationships with friends that had kind of, I don't want to say slipped, but it just becomes stagnant because everybody had been so busy. There's been time to nurture those, and that's been incredible. Yeah, I think that has been very, very important. I've read a lot more books, and, you know, focused on things that I'm interested in. I haven't done a whole lot of volunteering yet, just given the landscape of COVID, which shame on me to a certain extent, but I've really started researching things I'm passionate about and things that I want to get involved in. Some just from a level of like, where do I want to work and what type of company do I want to be in? But also, you know, you can't work at 13 different companies at the same time. So what other interests are you passionate about that you want to be able to give back to? And really started to educate myself on things that matter to me.
Any book recommendations?
From a female landscape, I am in the middle of Untamed by Glennon Doyle. It talks a lot about how women make themselves small, because they're taught in, you know, their whole lives, you should kind of be quiet, don't be too boisterous, and men are taught to hide their emotions because they don't want to become soft or they don't want to cry, or like, and just really honoring the fact that like we're human beings and we should be human beings. We should cry, we should laugh, we should, you know, enjoy every part of our lives and feel that it matters to kind of feel what you're going through and honor what's happening in the world.
Untamed, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Keli, I got one final question for you. If your friend loses their job today,
Yeah.
and they come to you, they call you and they say, hey, Keli, I don't know what to do. This has never happened to me before. I'm freaking out. What is the advice that you give them?
Ooh. That's difficult. It's going to be okay. I think a lot of times, you know, you start to panic of like everything you're losing, but making a point every single day to acknowledging what you're gaining. You know, you have time all of a sudden to really, really focus on the things that matter. Focus on that. Don't focus on what's being lost.
I think that couldn't have been said any better. I love that. You're thinking about the things you're losing, but try focusing on the things that you're gaining as well. They might be harder to see, but they're out there.
Exactly.
Keli,
look for the good.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It was so nice to talk to you.